I remember that morning like it's carved into my bones, the kind of morning that looks ordinary but quietly changes everything that comes after. The diner smelled like burnt toast and cheap coffee, same as every day. I tied my apron tighter, brushed a few strands of hair from my face, and told myself to smile, even though my cheeks already ached from pretending. The bell above the door jingled each time someone walked in, and I moved like a ghost between tables, refilling cups, clearing crumbs, keeping busy enough to drown the noise inside my head. That's what work had become, a way to not think. It had been 6 months since my mom passed, and the house still smelled like her cinnamon tea. Every morning I promised myself I'd clean out her room, and every night I found another reason not to. Grief is strange that way. It doesn't shout. It whispers in quiet moments, like when you're wiping a counter and your eyes blur for no reason. The diner wasn't fancy, just 5 red booths, a counter with peeling laminate, and a jukebox that hadn't worked since the last owner left town. But it was mine in some small way. It kept the lights on. It gave me something to do besides remember. Around 10 that morning, the usuals were already settled. Mr. Clark reading his newspaper in the corner, the truckers laughing too loud near the window, and the teenage couple pretending their milkshakes were romantic dinners, ordinary, safe. Then he walked in. A man in his 50s, maybe older, with tired eyes and a navy coat too nice for this part of town. He sat at booth 3, the one closest to the window, where the sun hit the table in soft gold streaks. He ordered black coffee, no sugar, no small talk. I noticed how he stirred it slowly, even though he hadn't added anything to it. Like he was lost in thought. Something about him made me pause, not fear, not interest, just a quiet curiosity. The kind you get when someone feels familiar for no reason. He stayed for maybe half an hour, barely touched his coffee. When I turned around to bring another order, he was gone, just the faint scent of his aftershave and the faint clink of the door closing. That's when I saw it. A folded note tucked under his empty plate. At first, I thought it was a tip. We get people who leave cash that way, hidden like a secret. But when I picked it up, it wasn't money, just a piece of paper. Folded neatly, edges pressed tight like someone cared about it too much. My hands hesitated before opening it. Inside were only a few words, written in faded blue ink. I'm sorry for what I took. Some things can't be returned, but maybe they can be forgiven. That was it. No name, no signature. Just that line. My chest tightened, not from fear, but something older, heavier. The handwriting. It looked familiar. The way the letters looped, how the F curled backward. I'd seen it before. I didn't know where at first, but my gut whispered, "You've held something with this writing before." All day, that note stayed in my apron pocket, burning like a secret I didn't ask for. When my shift ended, I sat in the back booth, the one by the window, tracing the words with my thumb. I thought about the man, the way he didn't meet my eyes, how he stirred the coffee like he was trying to erase something from it. That night I took the note home. I set it on the kitchen table beside my mother's teacup, the one I still hadn't washed since she left. The handwriting haunted me, so I pulled out the old wooden box she kept her letters in. Inside were photos, recipes, and a stack of envelopes she used to send to my dad years ago, before he disappeared. When I unfolded one of her old letters, my breath caught. The same looping F, the same blue ink, the same careful slant. But it wasn't my mother's writing. It was his, my father's, the man who vanished when I was 9. My hands began to tremble. For years, I'd imagined my father's face fading like an old photograph. Edges blurred, colors gone. Mom never spoke much about him, only said he left when life got too heavy. That was her way of softening the truth. I'd built a wall around that hole in my life, but now this tiny note, slipped under a plate in my diner, cracked it open. I stared at the handwriting again. The loops were precise, deliberate, as if every letter carried regret. The smell of old coffee still clung to it. I turned it over, searching for anything. A name, an address, even a date. But there was nothing. Just that sentence. Some things can't be returned, but maybe they can be forgiven. Forgiven. The word echoed. The next morning, I showed the note to Marcy, the cook. She was 60, tough as nails, with hair the color of cigarette ash. She looked at it, squinting. Could be anyone, she said. Customers leave weird things all the time. Maybe he just felt guilty about not leaving a tip, but guilt had a shape. And this wasn't about money. It was personal. I could feel it. For the next few days, I watched booth 3 like a hawk. Every time the door chimed, my pulse jumped. But he didn't come back. The diner carried on like it always did. Orders shouted, laughter echoing, dishes clattering. But somewhere beneath all that noise, something had changed. I started seeing my father's ghost in every quiet man who came through that door. A week passed. Then, one gray morning, rain streaked the diner windows like silver veins. The kind of rain that makes you remember things you tried to forget. I was pouring coffee for Mr. Clark when I saw it. Another folded note. Same booth. Same table. Same neat fold. I froze. My hand trembled as I reached for it. You used to draw stars on napkins when you were little. Do you still? My throat closed. That wasn't a memory anyone else could have known. When I was a kid, I'd sit beside my dad at the old diner down by Harbor Street. While he read the paper, I'd doodle little stars on napkins and slide them toward him. He used to smile and say, "You'll draw your own sky someday, Lily." No one else knew that. The note fell from my fingers. I sank into the booth, my knees weak. The smell of coffee and wet pavement wrapped around me like a dream I didn't ask for. That night, I didn't go straight home. Instead, I drove to the old pier. The one where my father used to take me for ice cream when Mom worked late shifts. The sea was rough, restless. I sat there with both notes in my lap, trying to piece together a man I barely remembered. Why here? Why now? Why me? Was he trying to reach out or make peace before disappearing again? I didn't have answers, but I knew one thing. He was watching. He'd been here, in my diner, seeing me without saying a word. Days turned into weeks. The notes kept coming. Always left under the same plate, same booth. Sometimes once a week, sometimes twice. Each one carried a small memory. You cried when the goldfish died, but you buried it like a queen. You hated thunder, but you'd always run to the window to watch the lightning. I was there on your graduation day. You didn't see me. Every note tore me apart a little more. He'd been near all these years, watching from a distance, too ashamed to come close. Part of me wanted to scream. Another part just wanted to see his face again, to ask why he left, why he couldn't stay when I needed him the most. One evening, just before closing, I decided to leave a note of my own. I wrote, "If this is you, if you're really my father, come tomorrow at 8 a.m. I'll make your coffee black, no sugar." Booth 3. I left it under the plate. My heart raced as I turned off the diner lights that night. I barely slept. I kept imagining him walking in, older, slower, maybe with that same faint smile he used to wear when I showed him my drawings. Morning came. 8 a.m. Rain again. Always rain when life wants to change. The bell above the door jingled, and there he was. He looked thinner than I remembered. His once dark hair was streaked with gray, and his eyes carried the weight of every year he'd missed. For a moment, neither of us spoke. He just stood there, hands in his pockets, eyes glistening. Then he said softly, "You still draw stars?" My throat tightened. "You still disappear?" The words came out harsher than I meant. He nodded, swallowing hard. I deserved that. We sat. The air between us was heavy, like the diner itself was holding its breath. He told me he'd left because he'd lost everything: his job, his pride, his sense of worth. He couldn't face Mom after he gambled their savings away. He thought he was doing us a favor by disappearing. "I watched you grow from afar," he said, voice trembling. "Birthdays, graduation, I was there. I wanted to come back, but shame is a heavy chain." Tears blurred my vision. "You think watching from the shadows makes it better?" "No," he whispered, "but it was all I had left of you." He slid something across the table, a small box, old and scratched. Inside was a locket, my mother's, the one she said she lost the day before he left. Inside, 2 photos, me at 5 and them together, smiling. "I took it by mistake," he said. "Your mom thought I sold it. I couldn't forgive myself." Silence filled the space between us. Then, for the first time in 20 years, I reached across the table and took his hand. His skin was rough, cold, trembling. I don't know if I can forgive you, I said, voice cracking. But I think she already did. He looked up, eyes wet. She did. She told me once, before she passed. She said you'd understand someday. The tears came then, hot and unstoppable. The diner blurred, my chest breaking open after years of holding it shut. We sat there until the rain stopped, two broken people trying to learn how to breathe again. When he left that morning, he didn't say goodbye, just smiled like he finally let go of a lifetime of ghosts. I never saw him again. But every morning I make one extra cup of coffee, black, no sugar, and set it on booth 3. Sometimes forgiveness doesn't arrive in words. Sometimes it comes quietly, under a plate, in a diner, when you least expect it. And if you've ever held a note that made you cry, maybe it wasn't just paper. Maybe it was a piece of someone trying to find their way home.